So in my role as the head of marketing and media in LBUSD, I spend a considerable amount of time not only engaging on several social media platforms, but also really thinking about the complexities, the advantages, the dangers of social media, and what could possibly be next. And in a relatively short amount of time, the world of social media has not only grown exponentially, but it's now part of our modern reality, whether we use it or not. And when I'm feeling overwhelmed with this work, I often return to this quote. The first rule of social media is that everything changes all the time. But what won't change is the community's desire to network. And that last point about the community's desire to network reminds me that even with all the challenges of social media, many of these tools, if they're used appropriately, they can provide important human connections, and they can even give voice to those often left out of the conversation. Hi, I'm Chris Itzen, and I'm the Assistant Director of LBUSD's Marketing and Media Services Department. And I'm also the District Administrator who oversees social media. I'm a former classroom teacher and swim coach, and I'm also a parent of an LBUSD student. I'm really excited today to share this important information with families and caregivers in order to help support all of our students when it comes to safely and effectively using social media. So this presentation is going to touch on some of the positives and negatives of teens and social media use, and give you a brief overview of our new social media guide for students and families. So let's start by discussing a basic three-part definition of social media. Social media is a collective term for websites and applications that focus on communication, interaction, content sharing, and collaboration. 2, people use social media to keep in touch, interact with friends, family, various communities, and others that they may share similar interests with. And 3rd, businesses use social applications to promote and sell their products and track customer concerns. When it comes to most social media accounts, an individual must be at least 13 years old to use a given platform. However, many people believe there should be more stringent age restrictions, and that the usage should even be for older students, or even sometimes people say just for adults. And whether you're a parent or caregiver that allows your middle schooler or your high schooler to use a social media platform, or you're one that restricts usage, you're going to hear me say a few times today that it is vital to be aware of what's out there, regardless of your stance. So let's start by talking about some of the benefits. So the first one I would bring up is creating a positive digital footprint and digital resume early on in life. So especially around 16, students can get on LinkedIn and they can start to build a digital profile that shows to the professional world their accomplishments, their focus, their drive, and what they want to do after school. Another really great point of social media for students is free access to a massive amount of information from reliable sources. There are how-to tutorials for things like math, history, art, current events. I think about it all the time. Anytime I want to do or build something around my house, I can always go to YouTube and check that first. And there's often great resources and information that can be used. Our students have more access to information than ever before. And another way is easy access to inclusive communities they may identify with or have similar interests. There's social media groups about sports, outdoor activities, fitness, book clubs, the way you identify. There are a lot of ways that students can connect using these social networks. And I'd say another resource is sites that provide ongoing resources for affirmation, self-esteem building, and social resources. So like motivation pages, nonprofits that support various communities, resources out there that they can find on these platforms. And when used appropriately, social media allows so many options for us to connect and share information. But of course, there are a lot of downsides. So while this is not a comprehensive list, and you'll find a lot more in our social media guide that we're going to provide at the end of this presentation, here's a few things to really start with and think about, because there's some of the most pressing negative side effects for teens in social media. So the first is anonymity. There's social media websites like LBUSD, LMK Anonymous polls, Telenym, YOLO, or AMA accounts, which encourage Ask Me Anything questions from anyone on the internet. On these sites, users can almost never verify who exactly they're interacting with. So your child could be talking to somebody dangerous, somebody random, who knows. And also, teens may feel that their comments are consequence-free. They can say whatever they want, which may end up hurting others if those get out. Because just because something's anonymous doesn't mean someone can't screen capture it or figure out other ways to share it creatively, and that could come back to negatively affect your teen's future. So make sure your teen understands the risks involved with using anonymity websites. And now the big one and the popular one that most of us know, cyberbullying. Despite the efforts from many social media apps to combat bullying through improved monitoring and reporting features, cyberbullying is at an all-time high. Some examples are tea accounts or gossip accounts. Those are becoming increasingly prevalent for sharing gossip and harassing students online. So first and foremost, make sure your child understands how to report and block other users, and review our LBUSD policy about cyberbullying that we'll share for you to get to in the end of this presentation. And another big one, you may have seen the HBO show that covered this, but an issue is catfishing. And this is a term that's used for a person who poses online as someone else in order to manipulate their victims. Teens are especially susceptible to catfishing because they often friend people that they don't know, or they share too much personal information online. So talk with your student and let them know random chatting apps are not safe ever. If they're truly trying to meet new friends, it might be best to start on an app that's interest-based with text-based group forums. That's a safe way to start. Now let's talk about location tracking and sharing. These options are commonly used on social media apps and can be accessed by strangers. Turn off location settings on your child's social media accounts and check to see whether previous posts include information. Students should not be sharing where they're at all times. Many parents like to keep track of their young ones using an app like Life 360, which you can Google. In such instances, you can keep location services on only for those apps, but have them shut off for everything else. And now another really big one to be aware of are secret chat rooms, or also called private chats. They may allow for unrestricted conversations, sexual content, or hate speech. Some app examples are Discord and IMVU, and there's a lot more popping up these days. However, sometimes adolescents create a private chat room with friends on any platform to safeguard against strangers. But in general, adolescents should be very cautious about joining chat rooms and be on the alert for predatory behavior. And the last one we'll cover in this negative section is false information. The world of social media, unfortunately, includes a tremendous amount of false and misleading info. So talk with your student about how to verify using reputable sources and to always fact-check rumors they find on posts, even from their peers. All the time we have instances where a student posts something online that is untrue or unverified, and it spreads like wildfire, and students automatically believe it and get involved in things that often can negatively affect them. And I can say to you as a parent, I'm often petrified thinking about the dangers of social media. However, I'm constantly reminding myself that these tools are here to stay, and the more I know will help me ensure that my own family is safe. So I believe this quote by Nelson Mandela is the first answer to the question of how do I keep my students safe when they use social media. Educating yourself is the jumping off point in keeping your students safe online, and even in helping them use these tools in ways that can benefit them both emotionally and academically. It starts with awareness about what's out there and how teens are using social media, and also knowing where to find resources, which again, we're going to give you some resources at the end of this presentation. But from there, once you know what's going on and you have those resources, you need to think about keeping the lines of communication open with your child. And of course, modeling positive behavior on your end if you use social media. So now I'm going to share the story of our friend Dorothy. And as I share this with you, I want you to think about the big picture. What do these events tell us about kids and their social media use in 2022? So now let's meet Dorothy. As you can see, this is a Twitter post. And Dorothy is broken up and heartbroken. And she says, "I'm leaving forever. My mom took my phone. I miss you all. Shaking my head. I'm crying. Goodbye." And hashtag ACNL is a animal farm simulation game online. So she's tagging that and posting this out to the community that she plays this with on Twitter. Now you'll notice something significant if you look at what's circled on the slide. She's not on a phone. She's on a Nintendo 3DS image share, which is on a video game platform. So at this point, we could probably assume that her phone has been taken away, but she still found a way to connect to social media. All right, hashtag busted. So now Dorothy's mom jumps on her account and says, "I'd seen that Dorothy has been using Twitter on her Nintendo. This account will be shut down now." Good job, Mom. So Mom has stepped in. She's taken the phone. Dorothy is not. She's at home, so she's not connecting with friends. She's not using someone else's phone. She has the video game system taken away. So now she's going to have to wait while she goes through this restriction. She's off social media. But there's more. So Twitter gets involved. So the Twitter account for Twitter post hashtag free Dorothy. Now they want Dorothy back, right? Because these companies, they want kids online. They want us online, consuming constantly all the time. So they're adding a little fuel to the fire in this part. So now all of a sudden, you see Dorothy pop back up on social media and it says hashtag Wii University. Hello, my mom took my phone and Nintendo DS, so I have no choice but to use my Wii. Thank you all for the support and love. I will answer my DMs and follow back when I have a stable connection to Twitter. Bye. Love, Dorothy. Now Dorothy's on another video game system that has an open source that can be used online to connect on social media. So even though mom has taken phone, she's been isolated, one device has been taken away, Dorothy knows of another way to still connect and stay online. But not today, Dorothy. So now I've seen that Dorothy has been using Twitter on her Wii, and now all her devices have been taken away. So now mom has gone scorched earth. She's taken everything. Dorothy has no way to connect. Or does she? Take a look at the next slide, because Dorothy ain't done. I do not know if this is going to tweet. I'm talking to my fridge. What the heck? My mom confiscated all of my electronics again. And if you notice again what's circled, she's speaking to an LG smart refrigerator. And of course, on Twitter, LG Electronics says hashtag free Dorothy. So what does this tell us? Even as Dorothy's mom was conscientious, taking away her phone, figuring out, monitoring and staying on Dorothy and taking away the video games, she found another way, because social media and all this technology is becoming more and more integrated into our daily lives. And for our current and future students, social media is part of the fabric of society. It now affects all aspects of pop culture, how most people consume information and news. And as you probably know, it's become a major part of our political culture, and it just keeps growing. In order to help you and your child navigate the safe and effective use of social media, our team has developed the LBUSD Social Media Guide for students and families. This document is a comprehensive set of resources for students and families to safely work through the complex world of social media. This interactive document is currently available at lbschools.net/media in English, and it will be available in Spanish in the spring of 2023. So as we end, let's hear from one of our staff members about what this guide has to offer you and your students. And once you get your copy, check out all of the student videos, podcasts, infographics, and more resources linked in the guide. And with that, hey Chris, take it away. Hey there. Did you know that over half of the world's population use some form of social media on a weekly basis? Whether liking a photo of a gorgeous sunset posted by a popular influencer on Instagram, or tweeting about the latest current events, or commenting on a family member's vacation photos on Facebook, it seems these days that almost everyone is connecting in the digital sphere. In a short period of time, social media has become one of the most dominant ways that billions of people communicate all over the world. And these tools are only going to grow in use and evolve over time. And spoiler alert, your student will be impacted by social media whether they use it or not. While social media platforms can be downright dangerous if used incorrectly, and can have serious consequences for those that use them inappropriately, they also can be powerful tools to support students with research and learning about current events in real time. They can help them connect with others who share similar interests, and they can even be used to build an effective digital resume in preparation for college and career. Now, the first step in supporting your students safely using social media is to do your research. And I know what you're thinking. Where do I even start? Well, our team has compiled a trove of resources to support families in navigating the complex world of social media. In the student section of this guide, you can find information on social media tips for smart social networking, safe and responsible practices, how to build a professional portfolio using LinkedIn, and social media consequences in LBUSD. Now, in the parents section, we've highlighted common social media red flags, LBUSD Board of Ed policies regarding social media use, a link to the annual LBUSD Guidelines for Parents and Students Handbook, and links to external resources such as commonsensemedia.org that provides a massive database filled with articles and statistics about social media that are designed specifically for parents or guardians and students. There's also a Resources for Parents and Families Google folder that is filled with tons of resources you can freely use to learn more about the safe use of social media. And don't forget to talk to your kids about social media use on a routine basis. As the digital world continues to grow at an exponential rate, it's vital that you are aware of how your student is using these platforms. Building an open relationship centered on trust and communication is key. What platforms are they using? What do they like about social media? Who are they friending? Who are they following? What might be some challenges they're facing? And also, be mindful of your own use of these platforms. One of the most effective ways you can support your student is by modeling safe and appropriate behavior online. Hey there, everyone. Thank you so much for watching the presentation. I'm Chris Itzen, Assistant Director of the Marketing Department here at Long Beach Unified. Looks like we have
parents from Lafayette, Jane Addams, Hughes, Jackie Robinson, and many more. Thank you so much for joining us. So we are going to get into a little Q&A session. So if you have any questions you'd like us to cover or go over, you can go ahead and put them right into the chat. And I'll do my best to answer everything I can or point you in a right direction. Thanks, parents from Lakewood, showing up as well. So anything that you want to talk about or discuss, and if we can't get to the question because there's too many, we'll work on some ways to follow that up and get you the support you need. Also, we'd like to apologize. Our Spanish and Khmer streams are not working tonight. We had some technical difficulties, so this will be rebroadcast interpreted in Spanish and Khmer within a week or so that we can get that resource out to other families as well. So if you have any questions, go ahead and jump them in the chat, and we can get started. Great question. So someone's asking about our social media guide, what resources are in there. So there are a few pages that deal with direct issues with cyberbullying, Board of Education policies regarding using social media. There is safe social media use security techniques and different strategies for students. There's also a whole section for students when they get to 15 years old for using LinkedIn. To be able to start building your professional presence online in a positive way and using those tools correctly. There's a timeline of social media and really media in Long Beach Unified. If you want to just check out the history, it's very interactive. There's a couple podcast episodes of students' perspectives on social media and versus adults' perspectives on social media, and a whole lot more. There's stuff on cyberbullying, all kinds of things on identity theft and different pieces, and links that go out to different Google folders that have different PDFs and documents that can support you. So it's a really comprehensive packet. What's the best way to monitor my kids' use of social media? That's a challenging question these days, right? And so the number one thing, starting from the beginning, is relationship, right? Building that relationship of trust with your child, and having constant conversations about social media. Kids often have multiple accounts sometimes, fake accounts. It's very easy to set up a social media account. So it's keeping an eye on that. I would suggest, this is a personal opinion as a parent, monitoring their phone, having access to their phone and all of their passwords so I can keep an eye on it. If you have social media, making sure you're following their account and requiring them to follow you is another way. And then there are some apps out there, some newer apps. I'm not super familiar with them, but you can look into social media monitoring apps. There's a few out there. If you go to commonsense.org, you can find a lot of resources on that. That's also linked in our guide, just to give you another set of tools. So here's one, a really unfortunate question, a strong one. Thank you for asking. What are the schools doing to prevent using inappropriate social media pages from students? I just did a presentation with all of our principals this last week on that. That's an epidemic right now, unfortunately. A few years ago, really just even 2 years ago, it would have been very easy if you would have seen an inappropriate social media page, say on Instagram, that maybe was showing student violence or bullying. We could report that to Instagram and it would be taken down within 6 to 24 hours easily. Nowadays, they're not monitoring that as much, or they claim they don't have enough staff. And so we're constantly reporting these accounts and nothing is happening on the social media end. Other than that, we also work with our school safety if there's a threat to be able to report that right away and deal with anything like that. Otherwise, we're working right now with supporting our principals and finding new and innovative ways to go after those accounts. And so there's a few investigative tricks we use to try to discover who's using it, so we can actually connect with those students and really work on getting that taken down. But unfortunately, it's really it's a big challenge right now to get through that. Got it. Where I have my, if you hear me talking on the side, I have staff in the earphones helping me get through. So there's one that says, why do our schools seeming not enforce their phone use policies? That's really a site-by-site basis with the schools. I'm not sure. I'm not really familiar with what's happening to everyone. They should be enforcing school policy on using cell phone. I know when I was a teacher, you were not allowed to use cell phone in my class. But that one is really case by case. I see another one about what are consequences for a student creating an IG account with negative content. first we have to figure out who that student is, and then figure out, it really depends on what's happening on that account. Is it a bullying issue? What school policies is it violating? If you go into our social media guide, you can actually look up consequences for social media, and there's a whole section on board policies that relate to that, but it really depends on specifically what they're doing on the platform. All right. All right, so we have a question about limiting daily use of technology and social media. That's really about you building out those guidelines and that with your child and sitting down, maybe coming up with those time limits. I know a strategy that a friend of mine, I have a young child, so my daughter's not on social media at this age, but I have a friend who has a high schooler, and one thing they do is they have a time limit at night they set when they get home. And their phones are actually put in a cabinet in the parents' room, so they don't have access to their phone over that night. So they limit that, and then on the weekends they have certain rules they put in, like you can use your phone after 10 in the morning, but then you can only use it till 8 o'clock at night, and then it goes back. And they've just set those boundaries and built that together and made those agreements with their students. It seems to be working really well for them. How do you assist parents with disabilities when not understanding social media? That is a very great question. Thank you for asking that. It's really a challenge. The social media platforms are not set up for having a lot of access sometimes for specific people. We would be happy to support you with that. If you can email us at communications@lbschools.net, I can follow up with you on that. And we can talk about kind of what might be some specific needs and see how we can help. Got it. And so there is a question here about online bullying. So what is the district's practice or policy about how to deal with online bullying between students? The district will get involved, especially if it's affecting school. If it's happening within the school day, automatically, if it's happening at school, but also if it's affecting operations with the school, and there's some specific board policies, it's treated the same way, it should be treated the same way as physical bullying would happen at the school. And like I said, in the guide, the section for parents goes over all of our district official board policies and rules about behavior that could be related to social media. So there's a question about where else do we go when an incident of cyberbullying has been reported to any school staff and there's been no consequences whatsoever. We always suggest you immediately try to reach out to the principal as much as possible, a few times if you need to. And then you can also contact the level offices. So in Long Beach Unified, we have an early learning and elementary schools office, a middle and K-8 school office, and a high school office. Sometimes they can help with that communication. And then you can also reach out to communications@lbschools.net. Our office, we don't handle anything to do with discipline or anything like that, but we do help with investigating and trying to get people connected to the right stakeholders or staff. Great question. So parents asking, what is a positive way that my child can start building a positive footprint online? So if you think about it, it's almost in the same way how some parents, there's a new system out there where parents can get their kid a credit card, but it's really signed to them, but it goes into their kid's name, and then it starts building their credit when they're young. Think of it that way, in the same way with social media. By getting them an account and starting to post accomplishments and positive things they're involved in, clubs, activities, those are the best ways to do it. I would suggest, this is a personal opinion of mine, that I wouldn't start that until they were at least 14, 15 years old. Some students, it goes as low as 13. That's legally when you're supposed to be allowed to use social media, even though that's hard to regulate. But a really great way once they're 15 is to use LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is the most, professional, business-focused, job-focused platform. And so a student can get that at 15, and they can start putting on awards they've won. If they're in Long Beach high schools and they're in a pathway, talking about pathway work, say they're in engineering classes, showing off projects, great field trips or work-based learning experiences they show, and really show the well-rounded successes and the positive things that they're doing, because people are going to be looking for that when they're applying for jobs. I'll tell you, in my line of work, when anyone applies to work for our office, of course, we look at their social media. I know a lot of companies that do that as well. Your resume is one thing, but what your online footprint looks like is just as significant, if not more. So the question was, what age do you think a child should start using social media? Technically, with most platforms, they're not allowed to till they're 13. But as I said, there's no way to verify that, right? Anyone can make a social media account, unfortunately. I would say personally, as an educator, as a parent, for me, it's about 15 or 16 years old is the best time to really start engaging in that at all. And really with a regulated support where you have boundaries as a family, you know what's going on with their social media, and you have that relationship. Great question. So, question is, one of our viewers is asking, do we ever get involved in sharing with students a lot of this information and providing them content about safe social media use? And the answer is yes. So we started really investing in focusing on regulating social media and using it effectively in Long Beach Unified in about 2019. And we started going out to the high schools and meeting with student leadership classes and doing lessons on digital citizenship. We've also pushed the guide out to all of our schools. And like I said, I just presented to all of the principals this last week to encourage them to then push that out to their sites as well. And we are right now also working on building out customized lessons and videos for students that schools can use. And then we also do one-on-one training where we go out. So for example, one of our principals that I met with yesterday asked me if I could come out to their school and run an assembly on safe social media use. And so we're setting up that now. And so that's something that we always offer to all of our schools. We're one small department, but we do offer that, and we hope to expand that as well. It's a great question. So the parent is asking, how can I keep my kids from being distracted by social media when they're doing homework? The short and easiest answer that I would ever give you is they don't have their phone while they're working on it. That phone is always going to be a distraction. And I think we can all relate to that. I know if I have my phone sitting on my desk when I'm trying to do some important work and it's popping off with notifications, I get distracted even when I'm trying not to use it. So it really is just not having it in the room. That's a big one. Like I said, I have a friend who does that well, where they have a dedicated place in their house where cell phones go. And for them, they take it as far as the parent does that as well. That's, of course, up to a parent's discretion, but that's something they do to model that behavior. So someone is asking, do I think it's good for kids to use social media? Is there any good reasons? Honestly, it's a challenging thing. Working in the line of work we run, we see a lot of the negative and the dark side of social media, and it's such an unregulated Wild West. I often think of it as it's like a high school party with parents not being there, right? Because they're just, kids are out there on their own, and it's very hard to supervise. But I would say at the same time, there's a lot of access to interesting information. There's educational accounts. There's positive ways for students to connect with people that they identify with and build relationships. I tell a story in one of our other presentations where there was a young lady who lived in the Midwest in a very, very small town of only about 3,000 people. And she had some issues with her identity that she didn't feel accepted in her community and that she really had to keep from everyone. And she felt very isolated and went through some serious issues with her mental health. And she ended up connecting with people through Instagram that were like-minded and had similar beliefs as hers. And she ended up moving out of her community when she moved out of college. But she wrote this really poignant article on how that saved her life. And of course, that's not always what happens. Sometimes social media can be very negative, but it is a way to find other people that like the things you are. I think about it like in a silly way. As a surfer, that's what I like to do for fun. I follow all kinds of surf accounts and get inspiration, and that's something positive for me. And there's not a lot of negativity in that. And so that's, finding those avenues within social media where there's positive things happening. These are great questions. Thank you all so much for actively participating. All right. And we got another one. So this one kind of plays off of the last few, but it says, are teens and social media a good mix? A lot of ways, no. Right. A lot of ways it's challenging. It can be a very scary thing, but like I talk about in the recorded presentation, these exist and they're not going anywhere. And so we talk about this in education a lot, right? That we need to do in Long Beach what we do best is educate. And so if we can find resources to support parents, and then you can become educated and really comfortable with at least the basics, it helps you understand how to work with your child, just like you would in anything else, in setting boundaries and setting expectations. It is a challenge. All right, so we are going to wrap it up just in a little bit, but if you have any further burning questions that you'd like to drop in the chat, we'd like to catch any of those for you. And you can go to, it's linked in the description, but you can also go to lbschools.net/media. Bottom of the page, you can see our social media guide. There's one for staff, and then there's one for families and students as well. We are really excited that we are just had the family guide translated into Spanish. So we're working on some interactive video content to finish up, and then we will be releasing that hopefully within a month. So it's just another access for families in our community. All right, and so if you're joining late, help us spread the word. We had some technical difficulties tonight with our live Spanish version and Khmer version of this presentation, but we will be re-recording those, and we will have those up on our YouTube channel just so that we can support and share that out with our families. And this broadcast, after being, we'll be adding subtitles. And in about 3 to 5 business days, this will be up on our YouTube channel, and that's at lbschools.net/YouTube that you're watching now. And so if we don't have any other questions, we're going to say thank you so much for joining us, and have a good night.